Welcome into episode 3 of my college football predictions. Tonight, we're talking about the ACC conference. What has been let's be honest, last year was not a phenomenal year for the ACC at all. We did see some fun teams, some teams that came out of the blue like Syracuse. They had a fun year last year. They saw 2 playoff bids. Now it's time for me to predict my ACC predictions. If you haven't watched episode 1 and 2 of me predicting the Big Ten SEC, go watch those as well. I think they're pretty good, but I might just be biased. But anyways, moving on. Let's begin my ACC prediction, shall we? Coming in at dead last, finishing 17th in the ACC this year, I have the Stanford Cardinals to go 2-10, folks. Stanford by no means is a good football team at all. They're returning 7 total starters on offense, and they lost way more than they got back over the offseason. So they lost guys like David Bailey at defensive line. They lost a lot of defensive linemen and offensive linemen, as long as with a wide receiver in Alec Amayar, who I thought was a bigger loss than maybe some people think. But that's just me. But not to mention, this team went 3-9 last year, and the fact that they lost more guys than they're getting back shows you there's already issues already, right? What did they bring in, right? They brought in 3 real players: C.J. Williams, Jordan Washington, and Nicky Protojos, sorry. Anyways, I just don't know how this offense is going to score points this year. They have a pretty bad quarterback, not a good running back room, not a good receiving room. There's the only thing that I really can see as a good sign about this team is their linebackers, who are pretty solid. I do think the defense got a little bit better, but the offense just is so much worse, and that's why I think they're going to go 2-10. Now, for their record, how they're going to do, when I see the path. I think they beat Stanford this Saturday. They go to 1-0. Then they lose to BYU, lose to Boston College, lose to Virginia, before they beat San Jose State, go in the bye week, lose to SMU, lose to Florida State, lose to Miami, lose to Pitt, lose to UNC, bye week, lose to Cal, lose to Notre Dame. I'm sorry, it's just how it is, Stanford. Moving on. In 16th place, going 3-9, I have the Wake Forest Demon Deacons. Wake Forest, again, very similar story from Stanford, right? They go out last year with a 4-8 record. I think they got worse than what they did last year, and I think that it's going to show when they lose an extra game or 2. They lost a linebacker in Branson Combs, I thought was pretty good last year. Lost with the wide receiver Taylor Morin. Also, Hank Bashemeter as well at quarterback. They lost him. Now, I will say, to be fair, they are bringing in the South Carolina transfer Bobby Ashford to be their quarterback this year, which, don't get me wrong, I think he is due soon. However, I don't think he ends up actually having that great of a year, just because of how the Stanford whole situation... Wake Forest. How the whole Wake Forest situation is right now. I don't know. The wide receiver room has had a huge turnover from last year. I don't know. We'll see. But again, I'm not liking this team at all right now. I think they still have so many holes they need to fix if they want to get anywhere. So there is that. Now going down to their record of 3-9, here's how I think it plays out. I think they actually start off 2-0. They're going to beat Kennesaw State and Western Carolina. No one says they're losing that. They're going to lose to NC State before going on the bye, lose to Georgia Tech, lose to Virginia Tech, lose to Oregon State, go on the bye week, lose to SMU, lose to Florida State, lose to Virginia, lose to North Carolina, and then they beat Delaware and then finish off the year losing to Duke. So, again, very similar story to Stanford, but still not very good. In 15th, going 4-8, give me the Boston College Eagles. Again, they are another team in the ACC. Except this team, at least last year, they went 7-6. They won a bowl game. However, they lost way more than they brought in, including Tommy Castellanos is gone now. They don't need a new quarterback, which they're bringing in the Alabama quarterback Dylan Longer, who is a 4-star passer from the 2023 class, who has still some potential. They also do have Grayson James remains on the roster as well. I could see them both getting a little bit of action throughout the year on who's going to be the starting quarterback early in the year. with a game against Fordham, because then they play Michigan State, Stanford. Like, they're really getting into it right from the start after they play Fordham. So I could potentially be seeing that. They're returning 8 starters, which is all right, but still, like, they didn't really add much to the squad, and they lost some defensive line pieces, some offensive tackles. One guy I do think we should look out for, though, is a defensive end. An offensive lineman in Tommy Mathewson. I think he should have a fun year out there. I mean, I think he's a really good offensive lineman that they got. But besides that, now, how do I think Boston College does with this 4-8? How do I see this 4-8 year playing out? Here's how I think it goes. I think, I just lost it. There we go. I think they are going to beat Fordham before losing to Michigan State. And they're going to beat Stanford before going to the bye. Beat Cal and be 3-1. Then lose to Pitt, lose to Clemson, beat UConn, lose to Louisville, lose to Notre Dame, lose to SMU, lose to Georgia Tech, go in the bye week, lose to Syracuse to end the year. And that's how I think Boston College will go 4-8. In 14th, again, not much better, going 5-7. Give me the Virginia Cavaliers. Again, they're not very good. When I look at this team, they're returning 8 total starters, and they did add a new quarterback in Chandler Morris. He looks to be the clear cut as the starting quarterback. We saw he began his career at Oklahoma, then he went to TCU, and last year North Texas threw for, I believe, 31 touchdowns and nearly 4,000 yards. So watch out for him. I think he'll have an all right year. Again, there's a lot of question marks with these bottom ACC schools right now, as this defense looks so atrocious and the receiving room does not look good at all, and that's kind of where Virginia is at right now. Now, how do I think that goes out this year with their 5-7 record? I know some people may see Virginia as a 7-5, 8-win team. I just don't see it. I really don't know how Virginia goes that good. Then they're going to beat Coastal before they lose to NC State. Then they're going to beat William Mary, beat Stanford, lose to Florida State, lose to Louisville, go in the bye week, beat Washington State, lose to North Carolina, they lose to Cal, they beat Wake Forest, lose to Duke, go in the bye week, and then finish the year off with a loss against Virginia Tech, and they just go 5-7. I don't think they win a road game this year, if I'm just going to be quite honest with you. Again, I think these bottom ACC schools, there's not much to show for, but as we go up the list, they will get better. In 13th, going 5-7 as well, give me the Florida State Seminoles. After 2 years ago, having a beautiful year, last year they go a whopping 2-10, one conference win against Cal, and their other win against Charleston Southern. So, they need to get somewhere, right? So they kind of send everybody out, right? They have a total of just 4 starters returning. 1 on the offensive side, 3 on the defensive side. Now, where do I see this team goes? They got the former, we just talked about, the former Boston quarterback, Thomas Castellanos, to be their starting quarterback, right? We'll see what he does. There is that bond he's going to reunite with some coaching that he had. So, again, like Florida State, there's not much you can really do, right? I do like how they went out. They got the offensive lineman in Luke Lebon and the wide receiver in Deuce Robinson. I do like that. But still, Florida State, very questionable right now. And I just see a 5-win year. Like, I don't see anything crazy, good or bad. Give me a 5-win season for the Seminoles. Now, how do I think they get those 5 wins? Here's how I think they do it. They're going to start it off, and they're going to get, I think, destroyed by Alabama. Like, it's like, this is the wake-up call. Before they beat East Texas A&M, go on the bye week, beat Kent State, beat Virginia, they're 3-1. I think Florida State fans will start to run their mouth. Then they'll lose to Miami, lose to Pitt, beat Stanford, bye week, beat Wake Forest, lose to Clemson, lose to Virginia Tech, lose to NC State, lose to Florida, and have a 5-7 season. Again, Florida State, they're going to struggle a bit. Don't think they're going to have some amazing turnaround year. In 12th, now we're starting to get teams that actually think are going to make a bowl game this year. Give me Cal to go 6-6. Cal actually has a nicer schedule, I think, to put some wins together that I don't think a lot of people realize, right? They're returning 9 of their starters, which is pretty solid. 3 on the offense, 6 on the defense, which, hey, you can't complain when you're turning that many guys. They do, however, lose their quarterback in Fernando Martinez to the transfer portal. They also lost Jaden Ott, Nolan Williams, Craig Woodson. But I do like they went out. They got Devin Brown. Now, he looks to be like he's going to be playing. I mean, he was the transfer. He went to Ohio State, right? Right. So we'll see. He's battling out with E.J. Cromendorn for the starting quarterback job. But also, I do like the addition in the wide receiver, Jacob DeJesus, as well. So watch out for him. Again, besides that, the defense is going to struggle. I think the offense is going to have some question marks around it. But they also just have a hard schedule, too, in my opinion, compared to ACC schedules. Right? They have to go out, play Oregon State. I'd say they win. They'll beat Charleston Southern, but they have to play Minnesota. I think it's a loss, so they're 2-1. Where they beat San Diego State to go to 3-1, lose to Boston College for 3-2, lose to Duke, go in the bye week, beat UNC before losing to Virginia Tech, come out, beat Virginia, lose to Louisville, go in the bye, beat Stanford, and lose to SMU. I mean, you're playing SMU, Louisville, Minnesota, on the road to Oregon State week 1. Like, there's going to be some games in there, like, you know, it's going to be a little bit of a challenge. Also, like, having to go on the road to Virginia Tech across the country, right? Like, that's the type of stuff you get when you're, you know, Cal in the ACC. In 11th place, I have the Duke Blue Devils to go 6-6. When you look at a team in the ACC that is, I think, going to drop off from having a very fun year at 9-4 last year, it's Duke. They're returning half their guys. However, they lost so much. They lost their quarterback, Malik Murphy. They lost 2 wide receivers. They lost a running back in Star Thomas. They lost a defensive back in Joshua Pickett. They go out, and it looks that Darian Mason is going to be the starting quarterback who dazzled as a freshman at Tulane in 2024 before transferring to Duke early in the portal cycle, which was really weird. But, hey, they named him the starting quarterback very fast. They believe in this guy to establish this team. I think he's going to be good, don't get me wrong. But when I see that, the running back room sucks, the wide receivers are terrible, offensive and defensive line, not good, linebackers aren't good, the secondary is not very, the secondary I'd say is pretty good. The coaching will be pretty solid, and I mean, like, the special teams actually looks good, but weirdly enough, I know weird enough about the Duke special teams. So, I do think there's going to be some issues still. Watch out, though, because I think he'll do whatever he can to get Duke these 6 wins. And here's how I think their 6 wins will come. They're going to start off beating Elon before losing to Illinois and Tulane. I think they actually get the upset win against NC State at home before losing to Syracuse, beat Cal, go in the bye week, lose to Georgia Tech, go in the bye week, lose to Clemson, beat UConn, beat Virginia, lose to UNC, beat Wake Forest to end the year, and get to a bowl game at 6-6. So we'll see what Duke does, but that's my prediction there on the Duke Blue Devils. Moving on at 10th in the ACC, going 6-6, I have the North Carolina State Wolfpack. CJ Bailey takes over, right? He's the quarterback once again. I mean, when I just look at this team as well, I don't see some great spots, but I also see some good spots. Returning 13 guys, I like how they got out. They really made that offensive line way better after I thought it struggled a good amount last year. I mean, you go out, these offensive linemen, Brock Stokes, Jalen Grant, T. Anderson, and Spike Sowells. Those are 4 great offensive line pieces I thought they got out there, and they got. Heck, they did lose Kevin Constant, but I still think they're going to have an all right season and watch out for a 6-6 year. I know they're coming off, 6-7 year last 6-7 year last year, 6-7. But yeah, I think it's a 6-6 type of year once again for them. I just don't think they're too much of a promising year for the Wolfpack. Now, how do I think they do in terms of their schedule? Well, let's take a look. You're going to beat East Carolina, beat Virginia, beat Wake Forest, lose to Duke before losing Virginia Tech, beating Campbell, lose to Notre Dame, then lose to Pitt, lose to Georgia Tech, beat Miami, but then they're going to end up with wins over Florida State and North Carolina to close out the season. So that is my record prediction and thoughts for North Carolina. Moving on to number 9, the ACC. Give me Syracuse to go 6-6. I know it sounds like I'm having all these 6-6. Last 6-6 team here, the Syracuse Orange. Syracuse had arguably the most shocking year in the ACC last year, as they went 10-3, had a phenomenal year out there. included some wins over Miami, which was really big. However, now we turn the page and they just lost, it feels like, everyone. Right? I know they're returning 9 of their 22 starters. Don't get me wrong, that's pretty solid. However, when you look at who they lost, Kyle McCord, Oregon Gastelum, they lost a defensive lineman, Fetty Diggs. How about Elijah Clark at defensive back, Justin Barron, and wide receiver Taviar Pena? They do bring in Ricky Collins, who he's the former 4-star coming from LSU, right? I also see Steve Angeli, they're both battling it out for that quarterback position, but Collins was named the starter. So Ricky Collins is your starting quarterback. It's good. It's not Kyle McCord, though. That's the thing. They're not getting the starting quarterback at Ohio State the year prior. They're getting a dude that rode the bench at LSU behind Garrett Nussmeier. Which, don't get me wrong, I think he's going to learn a lot. He learned a lot from Garrett Nussmeier. Now he gets to take over this Syracuse squad in hopes to get him somewhere. But then, when I look outside the quarterback and the offensive line, I don't see much amazing stuff, to be honest with you. I mean, I think the coaching will, be able to do some stuff, but only to a certain extent. That's why I think they go 6-6. But again, you put this dude on he's the starter at LSU, they may win, 11 games. Now, how do I think they do? So I talked about this a little bit briefly yesterday, and I guess I'll go into it a bit more now. That Tennessee-Syracuse game week 1. I think Syracuse's entire season revolves around that game against Tennessee. But it really is like this weird game that both team seasons are defined by that game. Because both of them lost their starting quarterbacks, either to the transfer portal or the draft. Syracuse, I think they're going to lose. Right? I just don't think they can keep up with Tennessee. But then they're going to beat UConn, beat Colgate, lose to Clemson. There's no shot they win that. Beat Duke, lose to SMU, go to the bye week. Beat Pittsburgh, lose to Georgia Tech, beat UNC, lose to Miami, bye week, lose to Notre Dame, beat Boston College, and have a 6-6 year. Right? I think if you ask some Syracuse fans, I think they'd be happy with the 6-6 year after how much they lost. In 8th place, going 7-5, give me the Pitt Panthers. The Pitt Panthers. They went 7-6 last year after having one of the best starts in college football last year. They were a team that was a threat to win the national title last year. I believe they started 7-0 last year. They had this amazing start, right? However, those last 6 games, they averaged, their first 7 games, they averaged 40.6 points per game, right? They were the offense. They were the team to watch, and they lost 6 straight. The offensive line started surrendering. They gave up 43 sacks last season, so they need to bounce back on that. And they do go out, and with those offensive line, they get Key Gavel, Kendall Stanley. They also bring in Mason Heisenfeld at quarterback, and also Tony Kinsler at wide receiver. So, we'll see. Eli Holston, will he be the starter? I'm not really sure. It looks to be he's going to be the starter. I think there's still that little quarterback battle going on. It looks Eli's going to have that wrapped up. But, again, I don't see Pitt being this 40 points per game team. And I think they're going to have a solid year. Right? I think it was kind of what they did last year, just, spread out wins and losses. So let's look at the schedule and how I have it going with their 7-6 year. So, I think they're going to beat Duquesne, beat Central Michigan, beat West Virginia in the Backyard Bowl, bye week, lose to Louisville, beat Boston College, beat Florida State, lose Syracuse, beat NC State, beat Stanford, bye week, lose to Notre Dame, lose Georgia Tech, lose to Miami. There you go. Moving on. All right. Moving on to 7th. Give me North Carolina to go 8-4 this year. The Tar Heels bringing in, obviously, as we know, Bill Belichick to be their head coach. However, I think it only gets to a certain point where the coaching can really do you anything. And also, I'm waiting to see what Bill Belichick can do, right? We'll see. This is very different from the NFL. So, let's take a look. They lost a few guys, but it looks to be in Gio Lopez, who came from South Alabama, is going to be the starting quarterback for North Carolina. And North Carolina has this team built, right? They're building this team up. They got 4 stars to come in. They have a shot to do what they want to do with Bill Belichick, but I just don't think it happens. I think there's too many holes in this lineup still. And so here's how I think the schedule goes. Week 1, when they're playing against TCU at home, they're going to win that game. I'm not a betting man, but that is without a doubt, UNC is going to win that football game. It is literally the Coach Prime story all over again. Oh, TCU's all hyped up. Oh, they're going up against a team who has a brand new head coach, big name guy, and everyone's counting that team out against TCU, and they win. It's the same story all over again, and UNC is going to win. They're going to beat Charlotte, beat Richmond, beat UCF, be 4-0 in the bye week and I think very well college game day can be there, right? It's when they're playing Clemson at home. They're 4-0. It's going to be bumping, and then Clemson beats them. Bye week, lose, and then I think they lose to Cal. I think it's like this hangover. They're now 4-2. Before they beat Virginia, lose to Syracuse, beat Stanford, beat Wake Forest, beat Duke, and they lose to NC State and have an 8-4 year. Watch out for the Tar Heels. I still think they're going to have a great year, but we'll see what that can get them. In 6th place, going 8-4, give me Virginia Tech. The Hokies last year went a whopping 6-7. 6-7. However, it's getting to a... Virginia Tech is building up a good squad. They are. They had a very disappointing offense last year. But now they go out, they added in a wide receiver in Devontae Green and a running back in Terrion Stewart. But Karen Jones is battling injuries and inconsistency during his junior year, but Virginia Tech is hopeful that he can return to the form that he really can be. Because I trust me, Kyron Jones, I love the dude. I think he can have a great year if he stays healthy enough and he gets that full potential. That's why I'm leaving him at 8-4. Very well could be a 9-10 win team. But I also want to see what the defense can do because I think the defense could struggle a little bit. But we'll see. So let's look here now at how I think their record goes. 8-4 this year. They're going to lose to South Carolina. Don't overthink it. Then they're going to lose to Vanderbilt. And they're going to be 0-2. They're going to be questioning their entire season off those 2 games. And then I think they win 4 straight against Old Dominion, Wofford, NC State, Wake Forest. They lose to Georgia Tech, they're 4-3. And they go out and they just go on a run. They're going to beat Cal. Then they're going to lose to Louisville, and then they'll come out their last 3 games of the year. I see beating Florida State, they're going to beat Miami, and they're going to beat Virginia, and end up with an 8-4 year. Watch out for the Hokies. I think they can have a good year as long as their quarterback can stay healthy and get back to his full potential. In 5th place, going 9-3, give me the SMU Mustangs. After last year having a college football playoff appearance, going 11-3, went 8-0 in conference play before losing to Clemson in the ACC title game, and then losing to Penn State in the first round. Kevin Jennings is trying to get this team back there. Now, the problem is they did so much over the offseason in terms of guys leaving and guys coming back, right? 6 dudes say, but they send a bunch out and they're bringing a bunch in. Which is why I just can't wrap my finger around that this team can do what they did last year, right? They lost some huge key pieces. Rashard Smith, Monty Dixon, offensive lineman dude, and Justin Osborne, and 2 defensive players. Now they go out, they bring in Dylan Singleton, Joshua Bates, Addison Nicholas. Right. They have that there, but I love Kevin Jenkins. I love how the offense is rolling. The defense should be really good too. However, I just think with all this stuff together, right, how many guys have lost and how many they're bringing in, it's more than usual, where I don't know how to feel about them right now. Not to mention they do also have a tricky schedule for sure. Let's just go through the schedule. It'll explain it for itself here. So, I think that they're going to start off the year very high. Beat East Texas A&M, beat Baylor, beat Missouri State. Then they have to go on the road to TCU, but I think they went bye week, beat Syracuse, beat Stanford. Then they have this stretch. They're going to lose to Clemson, beat Wake Forest, then lose to Miami. They're going to beat Boston College. Bye week, lose to Louisville, and then finish it with a win against Cal on the road. They have like 5 hard games, and I'm saying they only lose 2. They only lose 3 of them. So we'll see what they do. I don't think they're back in the playoffs, but I still think they have a 9-3 year. In 4th place, going 10-2, give me the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. This team is getting even better. Brent Key is doing an amazing job in establishing this Georgia Tech team. To be honest, last year I had this team going 2-10, And, well, they had a great year. Great year last year. Well, 7-6 year, right? They beat Florida State in Ireland. It was this amazing start. And I was like an idiot. And don't get me wrong, I see a lot of people saying they're a playoff team. I don't think they're there just yet, right? I love this offense, but the defense is going to be so questionable. Hey, Kyle Effort should have an amazing year, right? Haynes King returns back. I mean, this dude has this mentality of Georgia Tech can get to the playoff, keep doubting us, and he's sleeping at their campus to get more work in. Like, this is like the dog mentality. Like, Haynes King is going to be having an amazing year with the Yellow Jackets. Don't get me wrong. I think the running back room is really good. I think the wide receivers are very good. I think the offense in general is really good. It's going the defense step up and make, get their win. And I think they do, right? I think they go 10-2, right? But they're right there. They're right there on the doorstep. We'll see what. So, how do I think they're going to do? They're going to beat Colorado, beat Gardner-Webb before they lose to Clemson early. Then they're going to beat Temple, beat Wake Forest, bye week, beat Virginia Tech, beat Duke, beat Syracuse, beat NC State, bye week, beat Boston College, beat Pitt. And then it's going to come down to this final game of the year. Georgia's going to be 8-3. Georgia Tech is going to be 10-1. And it is going to be a phenomenal Friday night football game to watch. Like, both rivals are good. Well, Georgia Tech, I think they're going to be 8-3. I mean, Georgia's going to be 8-3 at this time. I think Georgia wins. I can't pick Georgia Tech until they get the job done. I'm sorry. I can't do it. Moving on. In third place, give me Louisville to go 10-2. Last year, Louisville went 9-4 and had interesting moments, but also really good. I expect Isaac Brown to have a really good year. And Miller Moss, right, coming back for his third straight transfer season after, he was at USC. We'll see, right? I don't want to say that Louisville can win 12 games. I think they can. They're very doable. I like the offense. I like the defense. I think the secondary will be a little bit questionable, but I really like this Louisville team. I think they're putting it together. And we'll see, right? Like, when I look at this team, there's not many holes that need to be filled, right? I think every hole is kind of filled in terms of what they need to do, but it could be a bit better, right? They lost a few guys. Now, how do I think they do this year for Louisville, right? 10-2, like I said. I think they're going to beat Eastern Kentucky, beat James Madison, beat Bowling Green, beat Pitt, beat Virginia. Bye week, their losses are Miami and Clemson. They're going to lose to Miami, beat Boston College, beat Virginia Tech, beat Cal, lose to Clemson, beat SMU, and then beat Kentucky to end the year and go 10-2. I think they're going to have a good year. It's just not where I can safely say that this team is going to win 11 or 12 games. I'm sorry. In second place, going 10-2, give me the Miami Hurricanes. Miami is obviously, maybe this is the transfer story. Carson Beck comes in to be with his girlfriend, and his girlfriend breaks up with him. So Carson Beck now here at Miami. I think he has an amazing year. I think Miami has a year that people don't even realize is capable of them, right? I'm seeing some people say they're going to go 8-4. I just don't see how this team loses 4 games. I think they only lose 2. I think that the team is really put together to do something this year, and it's all going to come down to what Carson Beck controls the fate of this team. And let's go through the schedule now. They're going to I think they beat Notre Dame. Notre Dame is going to get off to a slow start, I think, and Miami takes advantage of it. Give me Miami to beat Notre Dame, beat Bethlehem Cookham, beats South Florida before they lose to Florida at home. Bye week, beat Florida State, bye week, beat Louisville, beat Stanford, beat SMU, beat Syracuse, beat NC State. I think they lose to Virginia Tech, and then they beat Pitt to end out the year, and they go 10-2. But the best team in the ACC by far this year, and it is not even close. Give me the Clemson Tigers to go 12-0 this year. Guys, we know it's there. The Cade Klubnik and this team they're returning 16 of the 21 starters, which is ranked first in returning production. The quarterback is perfect in Cade Klubnik. I think the running back room could be better, but it's still good. Receivers looks amazing. Offensive line looks amazing. Defensive line looks amazing. Linebackers look amazing. Secondary looks amazing. Coaching looks amazing. Not to mention, they're also in the ACC, which is not the strongest conference. This team easily wins 12 games. There's no question about it. We'll go through the schedule. I'm very confident that Clemson goes 12-0. So, they're going to beat LSU. It's at home to start the year. No way they lose that. Beat Troy, beat Georgia Tech, beat Syracuse, beat UNC, beat Boston College, beat SMU, beat Duke, beat Florida State, beat Louisville, beat Florida, and beat South Carolina to end the year. And that's how I think the ACC goes. And I think they will beat Miami in the ACC title game. So that'll wrap up my ACC predictions. Hope you all enjoyed it. And stay tuned for more content because we are very close to the start of the college football season.